All right, good morning. Thank you again for being here for our homeowner webinar this morning about managing your community's reputation. As I said, we have an outstanding panel, so we're gonna jump right into it here and get the webinar started. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Stephen McConaughey. I'm the Executive Director of the Chesapeake Region Chapter of CAI. For those of you who might be new to the chapter or just attending events for the first time, this map kind of shows the region that we cover. So we cover all of Northern Maryland, all the way out to the eastern shore of Delaware. And we hold very frequent educational events such as this one for homeowners and also for community managers as well. We actually are kind of getting into a little bit of a slow time now for summer with everybody traveling. So our next event will be in September, and I will send out information about that in the follow-up email from this webinar. So keep an eye out for that. So it's my pleasure today to introduce our moderator, Don Plank. If you all have attended any of the educational sessions from our chapter or neighboring chapters, there's a good chance you've seen Don. He donates an unbelievable amount of his time to help educate our homeowners and property manager and community managers within our region. So thank you to Don to joining us today from Oklahoma. He's currently traveling. For those of you who don't know Don, he's the Vice President at National Cooperative Bank, and he also has over 9 years of management experience as well. So he has a great perspective of being able to see topics from two different points of view. And with that, I will turn it over to Don.
For that kind introduction, Steve. I appreciate that. It's great to be here this morning. I look forward to this presentation. I think our presenters have put together a really interesting presentation that I think will be very helpful and that we can take back to our communities. So I'd like to introduce our various speakers today. And can you go to the next slide, Steve? And we'll start with Brian. So Brian Blake, welcome. Brian was born in DC, grew up in the DC metropolitan area. He began his work in the green industry during his high school summer breaks working at Lakewood Country Club. In 2006, Brian joined McFall and Berry, a locally owned and operated full-service landscaping maintenance company, servicing the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore metropolitan areas. Brian worked as an on-site manager, was promoted to branch manager of Montgomery County in D.C., and is currently president of operations for Maryland. Brian enjoys the outdoors and plays in an adult hockey league. I'm staying out of your way, Brian.
Well, try to keep up.
Welcome.
Thank you, Don.
Next, we have John Brand and Joe Turpin. John Brand and Joe Turpin specialize in promoting communities to help increase and keep property values high and provide valuable information to communities to keep them in the know about events and news that are important to them. They work with homeowners, renters, future owners, service providers, and realtors. I think they'll bring a really interesting perspective and lots of great information on this whole area of communication, lots of different aspects to it. And finally, we have Derek Wilson. I've known Derek for a long time, always enjoy our conversations. Derek is a portfolio manager with Community Association Management Professionals, also known as CAMP, in Annapolis, Maryland. Derek currently manages several award-winning large-scale HOA communities. His dedication to customer service and performance excellence have enabled him to form collaborative working relationships with board and committee members. He is an active member of CAI, where he serves on multiple committees and has provided many articles for the various trade magazines. So thank you, Derek. Look forward to today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Actually, I have one more thing. I forgot one thing. During the presentation today, I'll be monitoring chat. And we want this to be an interactive presentation. So as the presenters are speaking, and you have questions or you have something you'd like to add, just put it in chat, and we will, as time permits, we'll try to incorporate it into our conversation today. We'll also leave time for a break. It's a 2-hour presentation. We'll try that about an hour in or so. Give you time to go get a drink. So with that, Derek, I'll turn it over to you and we'll get started.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Don. I just first would like to say thank you for the opportunity to be a panelist on the session today on such an awesome topic. You know, we talk about reputation. I'd like to share a couple definitions of reputation. And so the first definition is the beliefs or opinions that are generally held about someone or something. The second one is a widespread belief that someone or something has a particular habit or characteristic. So when you think about reputation, who can have a reputation? People, businesses, both small and large, government agencies, insurance agencies, airlines, car rental companies, animal breeds, elected officials, vehicle brands, countries, states, cities, and towns, news media outlets, homeowner associations, and that's why we're here today. So if you never thought about your association having a reputation, guess what? Your association does have a reputation. So hopefully by the time we get through the session today, you will have had an opportunity to reflect back on your association's reputation. And if it's great, great. And if not, hopefully you'll take away some great tools that assist you with maintaining a great reputation and also enhancing your reputation. So I did some extensive research in preparing for presenting on such a topic. And so I just have some statistics and things that I'd like to share with you as we get started. And so as you may know, your reputation is constantly evolving over time. The cumulative observations of your words and actions form the basis of your reputation. And it's not only what you do, but also how others perceive your motives that often count the most. And so while it takes a large amount of time to create and develop a positive reputation, it only takes a second to ruin such a great reputation. So your reputation, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It can open doors or ensure that every door is slammed right in your face. What does your reputation say about you? So building and strengthening your reputation should be the driving force behind your actions and choices. And I found some interesting information in a 2020 article from the Insider Monkey magazine. And the article is based on the 10 most disliked companies. So they use the word hated companies, and I really didn't care for that word too much, so I changed it to the most disliked companies. And you'll be surprised to hear, I'm just going to share a couple of those companies that were included in that article. And at the number 10 spot was United Airlines. And so I'll share with you how United Airlines made it to that list. I'm sure it was multiple things that have occurred over time, but the one particular incident that really took things to another level was the Chicago-based airline has been in hot water since 2017 when the management forcibly evacuated a passenger for an overbooked flight. Someone recorded the video went viral, and it just created a lot of dissent for that particular company. Facebook, believe it or not, you know, a lot of people use Facebook and you hear a lot about Facebook, but there's obviously, I guess, a large population out there that does not necessarily care for Facebook. And so it says the social media has been accused of being used by Russia to undermine the 2016 presidential election and being used by distractors to spread bad information, basically. And so they kind of made it to the list. Another one I thought that we would all recognize is Uber. And so Uber made it to their list. And it says that there was some allegations of sexual harassment and assault in the company common workplace towards women. It's interesting to know that the FBI even investigated Uber for meddling with rival company Lyft and undermining its operations. And so that was pretty interesting to see them on the list, as we all may have used an Uber or see the Uber cars out on the street as you're driving. And then this one was really interesting. It was for the University of Phoenix. So they made it to the list for deceptive marketing and advertising And it was based on promising individuals that if you were to come and attend the University of Phoenix, that they had connections with awesome employers that they would be able to assist you with getting employment. And so basically their reputation was ruined when this was kind of exposed that this was something that was occurring and it really wasn't true, and they weren't able to help individuals to get these wonderful jobs. And so as a result, a number of their admissions declined. They also had to close up 115 campuses, and they had to let go over 800 workers. And this goes back to 2020. And so when you think about reputation, you know, your reputation can be great today, and it can just go downhill the next day. So let's talk a little bit about some positive information that's out there about reputations. And so in another article, they mentioned that the grocery store supermarket chains Wegmans and Publix, that they enjoy good reputations, and they enjoy those reputations because of their connections with community and contributions to social causes. And so that was really interesting to see. And then I found another poll completed by in 2019 by the Harris Poll, and it was on reputation. And they listed a few companies that made the best reputations. And so I'll just list a couple of those. You have Sony, Microsoft, Procter & Gamble, Samsung, again, the Publix supermarket, the Walt Disney Company, of course, which we've heard over the years that Walt Disney has maintained a positive reputation. You also have LL Bean, Patagonia, Amazon, and again, Wegmans. Now let's talk about a few companies that made their list of worst reputations. And so these are all brands I'm sure that we use and are partners with and take advantage of their services. And at the top of the list was Comcast. You had Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Facebook, Dish Network, Wells Fargo, Sears, the Trump Organization, Philip Morris, and number one, you would not believe what made its number one, and that's the US government. So that was very interesting to see that. And so, you know, please feel free to place in the chat box any companies that you feel has a great reputation. We won't necessarily focus on negative reputations because we want to talk about some good stuff today. And so feel free to definitely put some of those in the chat and share with us companies that you may patronize that you feel provide some excellent experiences. And so this is what people are saying, which helps to form reputations. Based on what you shared in the chat box, let's see if we have some comments, Don, if we received any comments.
Nothing yet, but a lot of the names that you said certainly struck home. So I guess coming out here to Oklahoma, I have family out here, so I'm visiting this weekend. I hope you enjoy my beautiful background, because otherwise you would see a hotel bed. So, but I was thinking about it. I'm staying at a Hampton Inn. Like, I know what I'm going to get at a Hampton Inn, and they, in my book, they have a positive reputation because I have a good experience almost every time. And I think that ties into it is the consistency of ties into the reputation that you get. And someone just, Ruth mentioned CAI. Like, when I think of the Chesapeake chapter of CAI, there's, especially during this past pandemic year, there's a level of consistency and professionalism that happens every time we've done these online events. So there's this comfort level that comes, like, when we come online, we know how things are going to operate, that things will be done well. And that, I think that really helps build a positive reputation.
Awesome, awesome. So when we think about the list that's on the screen here, you know, which side of the list would you want to be on, and which side of the list would you want your association to be on when you think about these things? Are we offering 5-star service, perfect, you're happy? Have you been wowed, you know, by service? You know, are you feeling like you're getting your money's worth? Things of that sort. So these are all things that will assist with building a reputation, and as you see, either a positive one or a negative, reputation. So when you think about how this information and how it's shared and things of that sort, I found another article through the Columbia Journalism Review, and they stated that the number of times that people will share that. So they did a sampling. They put some articles out there, and so the articles had some. There was a positive article, and then they did an article with neutral, and then an article that had more negative information. And what they found was that the articles that had the negative information were viewed more, and they were shared likely 3 more times likely than someone sharing one of the positive or the neutral articles. So it's definitely important that when building and maintaining that reputation, that you want to stay on the side that's talking about the 5 stars, the great service, the perfect, I'm happy, and all of those type of things. And I was another interesting fact that I found, that it takes 5 positive actions to overcome 1 negative action. So I thought that that was very, very interesting, that you can have all of these wonderful things to occur, but it just takes a second to diminish that. But then to kind of rebuild is going to take you 5 times for each step that you want to get to.
Right, Derek. Like what one of our participants mentioned, how you handle a mistake is often really important. Like we all make mistakes, and so you can still protect your reputation. Like Noni mentioned, I'm staying at Hampton Inn. If I'm unhappy about something, like they're known to comp the room. And I found that myself, like if I often Google a company before I decide whether I want to go there, or a restaurant or whatever. And inevitably there are negative comments, but when I see a response from the company to that negative comment, I'm like, oh, they're paying attention. Maybe this was just a cranky customer, or maybe it was legitimate and there was a misunderstanding. So I think, it might not always be positive, but how we respond, and to Noni's point, I think is important.
Don, you make an excellent point. And I think that there's value in customers that have had a negative experience when they share it with the company. And so the customers that will have the negative experience and will not share it, those customers are most likely not to come back and patronize your business. However, one that takes the time to share a concern with you, that customer is more likely to become a loyal customer and continue your services, especially if the service provider takes the time out to reach back out to them and sincere in that conversation, and then work to improve the services. And so I think that there's a great point to that. And again, I think that speaks to that people are more likely to share negative experiences than those positive ones. And so, it's really important that we work to create those positive ones. But when you do receive information or acknowledge a situation that wasn't so positive, work to correct it, because that ties back into your reputation. And I think that will offer an opportunity for that person that had that experience. They're going to go and share, oh, wow, what a great association. They reached out to me and made things right. They apologized. They kind of share with me the steps that they're going to take to enhance the services and things of that sort. And then they not only promised all of this, but they walked the walk, and they did what they said they were going to do. And so I think all of that is definitely, of course, important to that reputation.
So Derek, related to that and to our topic today, we're specifically talking about community associations. What are some ways that community associations show that they are dealing with complaints? Like you'll often see on social media or when somebody's unhappy. Like, do you respond to those? And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I think we're talking about social media a little bit later. But do you have any tips to show that you're dealing with complaints?
So that's certainly a great question to speak to. And so I think it's very important that association operates in a transparent manner. And so I think that it's important that when you're at a board meeting and you have that resident participation section, when a homeowner comes and shares a concern with the board, that the board is sincere in listening to that homeowner, and then making sure that if it's something that needs to follow up on, making a note and letting the homeowner know, thank you for sharing this with us. This may not be the most appropriate time for us to go into all of the details, but please reach out to management and we'll be in contact with management and make sure that you receive a response back, to your concern. And so I think just being transparent and being open to listening to the homeowners and hearing from the homeowners, have a link that the homeowners can go directly to the board. And so have an email address and have that email address monitored by the board and the board members, and share that with the homeowners so that way they know that it's not being filtered by the management company or things of that sort, but being accessible. So I guess transparency and being accessible and just being good leaders. And I think that homeowners will feel confident that when they do have a concern that they bring forth, that it is going to be properly reviewed and addressed.
Excellent.
All right. I think we have a poll question, I believe, at this point.
Yes, excellent. So why don't we go ahead and fill out the poll.
Those are some pretty good questions there when we're talking about reputation in communities, because I think, sometimes you may not think about the community as having a reputation.
Excellent. Well, we all know we have a reputation, and it looks like at least half of us, half of the communities come back with a good reputation. That's good. Better than bad.
And Don, based on those numbers, it's great because it shows that, one, there was some interest in participating in the session today. And then it looks like some do know that there's not such a positive reputation. So hopefully they'll be able to take the information from our session today and share that with the leaders and work towards making some change. And then, as Stephen mentioned earlier, that this presentation will be available for those that were not able to attend today, but will be able to go back and to view the presentation. And I would just challenge that you definitely get your board members to review this, your community leaders, your committee leaders, and your members of the association, because as we go through this presentation, you're going to realize who all plays a part in your community reputation. All right, so we'll move to the next slide. Thank you. So how does news travel about your association? How does it spread? So in today's environment, there are so many ways for that news to spread. And so if you just look on the list that's on the screen here, there's just a host of ways. And so in addition to the items that are listed on the screen, there are other outlets such as news travels via the word of mouth. You have print, such as newspapers, newsletters. It can travel through litigation. What if there's litigation that started and it makes the news, or the word gets out that that association is in litigation again, and for whatever reasons it might be. And there's just a host of ways that news potentially can travel out to the environment. And so as we work through the presentation today, hopefully there'll be some tips to help you to be in control of what's traveling out there about you as well, and being able to manage the news that's out about your community, and to be able to make it in the way that you want to be seen out in the community, which we're going to also talk about. It relates directly with branding. So I think reputation and branding, they work hand in hand. And so we'll go to the next slide, please.
So yeah, when you're addressing this, Derek, can you mention Yvonne brought up, Yvonne is one of our participants. They have an older community where association fees are high compared to other communities. And reading between the lines, Yvonne, if I'm wrong, let me know. It sounds like the community has quite a few issues that they're facing. There's a legitimate reason that fees are high. And so I guess it goes into, you were talking about all the different ways that news is spread, who's talking, maybe weave in, like, how do you address, like, if you do have really high fees and there are legitimate reasons, how do you get that across to homeowners?
So you have to add value. So just as any good salesperson would do, is before you give them that number, you give them the value. And so you go through all the wonderful things. This is an awesome community to live in. We have a very active directors and recreation plan. We have a director who does all of our recreational activities. We have a recently renovated facility. We offer amenities such as your local market. We have accessibility for shuttle service, that takes you out into a 50-mile radius. You have to sell all of those type of amenities, but you have to have those amenities operating in a manner of excellence. And then you've got to have leadership that's leading in excellence. And then your management of your association needs to be leading in excellence. And so if you have all of that, that's going to set that value. So when you give someone that number of that monthly fee, it doesn't bother them because they know that they're coming to a community that has value and a community that has an awesome reputation. So this goes back to reputation. So if your reputation has been built and it's a positive reputation, once again, when potential homeowners see the numbers, they're not going to think twice about paying those numbers to live in such a wonderful association.
Right. Yeah, and it probably even give it for potential homeowners, but also for the existing homeowners. Sometimes I've seen communities where fees have to be high simply because they've been low for way too long, and now there are all these issues that have to be addressed. And I think it's extremely important I think that impacts reputation. Like, the board is addressing problems head on. Here are the reasons why your fees are high. We have this. We have all the roofs that have to be done. We have facade issues. We have these things. We are creating value for your investment by addressing these issues. And this is what we need to do in order to address them. And I think, to your point, like, communicating that and being upfront with owners and doing that, I think, is helpful.
That is so true. And so you have to, the communication is definitely key. The leadership is definitely key. And inclusiveness is definitely key as well, because you won't have the members out there stating that, oh, the fees are high and we're putting this out on Nextdoor, we're putting this on social media. And you're basically putting this out to outlets that others can see. And trust me, they are watching. I hear it from, I manage a couple communities that are neighbors. And so I'll be speaking with one community and they will share with me, wow, I've been on that Nextdoor app and this particular community, they're talking about this, and this. And so, I think people don't realize that what you're putting out there in social media, just because you believe you may have a closed environment or, it's only just for your neighborhood or just a couple neighborhoods by you, all of that affects your reputation. And when you get a negative reputation, that is definitely going to segue into potential homeowners not wanting to live in your community, and your current homeowners may want to move out of the community. So it just really creates an environment that's not so great. And when you think about posting things out in social media, you have to think about, why am I posting this in social media? If you're looking for a response to, or get something addressed, most of the time management is not managing social media outlets, and that's not how the association is operating, and it's not a best practice to operate based on social media. Let's pick up the telephone, call the management team, or stop by the office if you have an on-site office, or send an email to get the item addressed. And let's not keep a chain going on Nextdoor for 3 weeks about a concern and nobody's picked up the phone to even call to say, hey, this is a concern. What are you doing about it, or things of that sort. So I think that you really have to be smart about developing and maintaining your community reputation. And most importantly, you have to select the right service providers, and you have to elect the right leaders and hold everyone accountable. And that really just drives home to your community reputation, and get involved and volunteer and be a part of it. And so, let's not be the one that's on the sideline kind of pushing things out and directing and giving, suggestions that on everything and critiquing every little thing, but be a part of the process. That's the greatest way. And that's the best way really to find your new leaders for the board, are members that participate on the beautification committee, members that participate on the social committee and things of that sort. All right. So let's see here. Are we on the slide of, let's see here, who's talking?
Yeah, we're the one after that, where we're talking about everything.
All right, perfect. So let me just hit on a couple items on who's talking, and then we'll move to the everything. So who's talking? So you have homeowners, you have service providers, you have the banks, you have the investment providers, you have people that are visiting your community, your local elected officials, your auditors, your meeting minute takers. They're sitting in on those meetings and they're privy to, to how the meetings are run. Are you having outbursts by board members or outbursts by community members? Are the meetings, just going on for 3 and 4 to 5 hours? You have realtors, realtors are talking. And so I'm sure they're sharing information, positive versus negative, and they may steer their clients to communities with more, positive reputations. And so pretty much everyone is talking about your reputation. And so this leads us into what are they talking about? And so some of the things they're talking about is the timeliness of the payment of your invoice, how beautiful the community is maintained. Are the meetings effective? How easy is it to do business with your association? How much fun the social events are? What is being posted on social media? We've been talking about that. What a great place to live. And pretty much everything falls into that category of what they could potentially be talking about, the leaders and things of that sort. And so next we'll talk about financial stability. This plays into your community reputation, believe it or not. And so does your association have a reputation of having special assessments? We've kind of talked about this as well. If you're not managing the association properly and have the correct leaders in place, this potentially could be an issue that you're having to have special assessments every year, every other year. Do you have sufficient operating reserves? And so are you well funded? Does your association have a reserve study, and are you following it? So you can have a reserve study completed, but the reserve study is only as good as you use it for your community, and ensuring that the reserve study includes everything that should be accounted for within your community, and that you're walking through that should be pulled out and referenced back, on a monthly basis, definitely at the time when you're preparing your budgets, at your annual meeting time, reference back and, okay, what was recommended for this year? Did we need to do that? Did we at least look at those items? Are we moving that item to next year? But just kind of know what's in your reserve study. And once again, partner with a company that provides you with a reserve study that you feel comfortable with and that's not intimidating, and it gets you the information that you need, and that's going to be helpful for your association. Another one, does your association, are you inclusive in the preparation of the budget process? And so is it a secret about the budget? And we may send you a copy, we may not. Is it hard to get a copy of the budget? Do you have accessibility to get to the budget by just logging into your website and being able to pull up the budget? Are you having budget meetings to where there's dialogue about what's going into the budget? Are you having meetings after it's been sent out to the community for review to do the final approval? Are the committees involved in that process? Is there notice going out in advance to the committees to prepare their recommendations and things of that sort? Are you reviewing that reserve study while you're doing the budget? Are you reaching out to your utility providers to find out, is there a proposed increase? Things of that sort. And so, being inclusive in that process. And I think that by being inclusive in the budgeting process and having access to review the budget, I think that this goes back to when, someone says, oh, our assessments are way too high, then you as a homeowner and a member will be able to speak to your neighbor and say, oh, well, let's sit down and let's talk about why the numbers are where they are. And oh, did you see the notice about the budget preparation meeting that was just last week? I didn't see you there, so then they say, oh, no, I didn't. Oh, well, let's make sure I give you over to the manager so that they get you on the mailing list, and so on. And so all of that just helps to build those positive experiences and those positive relationships.
Very true, Derek.
And so, so some of the other things are most well-run associations have a low delinquency rate. Do you know what your delinquency rate is? And so, having a good reputation and maintaining your reputation, it includes, delinquencies. And so I think the well-run associations based on interactions, I think that people are less likely to act in a negative manner or become delinquent if there's a positive relationship and positive community reputation. You set that standard and people don't want to disappoint you. And so you're less likely to have more delinquencies, I believe, when there's a well-run association. And then are you conducting your annual audits? And so are you having a firm come in and just do your audits and confirm that everything is going well and all of those type of things? And so all of the things that we talked about so far, all of that goes to your reputation, so community reputation. And so next we'll go into talk a little bit about amenities. And so amenities are definitely things that enhance your community and also speaks once again to community reputation. And so if you have amenities, are you maintaining them? Are they being inspected? Are you waiting until the equipment is kind of worn out and has to be replaced? Or are you being a little on the proactive side and say, okay, this equipment has lasted us, 8, 9, 10 years. It may be time for us to enhance, to upgrade to newer models, add different functions. But most importantly, if you have amenities, please maintain them and maintain them to the best that they can be maintained, because that's really what the members enjoy, and that's really what's going to attract and to maintain members to your associations. And so, sometimes you may run into concerns to where there may be a limited amount of funds to manage these type of things, but there's ways to manage them with minimum funds. And so whether your budget is on the lower side of things or you have plenty of money to spend, if you're on either side, you can still maintain things in the proper manners by just having them serviced. Do you have a service contract to where someone comes out and maintains the equipment and checks them on a quarterly basis? Is there a cleaning crew that's going in and cleaning the facility and cleaning the equipment and things of that sort? Are you inspecting your clubhouse and making sure that the roof is in good condition, that you're maintaining the trim paint on the side? Are you power washing when necessary, getting a spring and fall cleaning of the windows in the entire facility? And all of those things speak to reputation. You have vendors that come and visit your clubhouses and in different facilities. When you're hosting meetings, the members are coming to the meetings and they're looking at the parking lot. They're looking at the striping that's faded and is in disrepair, the potholes that are in the parking lot, those type of things. And so you just want to make sure that if you have amenities that you do maintain them. And this goes into curb appeal. Do you have an effective inspection process in place when we talk about curb appeal? And so if we go to there we go. Do you have homeowners, do your homeowners feel comfortable with moving through the architectural review process for exterior modifications? If there's an architectural review committee or covenants committee, and sometimes, those committees, they get a bad rep, and that goes to community reputation. And so, is the board meeting with these committees and talking about best practices and being a leader and leading these committees so that they're going to follow in the same direction that the board members are leading in? Because I think when you run into a process to where the architectural review process is complicated, or it's you just feel like, oh, why apply because you're going to be denied? That's not a good spirit. And I think the architectural review process should really be in good spirits and really work with the homeowners to be able to get through the process and get to the end point of the exterior modifications that the homeowner is looking to have, as well as the covenants process, and making sure that you're conducting at a minimum, at least an annual inspection of all of the homes within your community, and have an effective process to notify homeowners and to, most importantly, to follow up on those inspections that went out. Do your common areas set the standards for the private lots? And so it's really tough to hold a homeowner accountable for their home and their exterior when they drive past the common areas and they're obviously not maintained, to the best that they should be. And so we'll move into the next slide. So relationships. So what type of relationships is your community known for? Are you fostering positive relationships with your service providers, your management team, and with the members? That's very important that you have positive relationships. And I'll just real briefly share a recent scenario that I was involved in. There's a community that I manage, and they're looking to have the lights replaced in the pond that they have. And so the company that they've contracted with is moving a little slow and getting the lights delivered and installed. Well, the contractor has advised us, the business partners advised us that there's a delay in the lights being received because they're coming from China. And so the board members calling me, the board members upset, where are these lights? Where are these lights? We need them like yesterday. And so, I explained to them, and so we kind of have some dialogue, and I asked, it's like, well, would you like to speak with the service provider? So I placed the service provider on a three-way call, and the call really did not go very well. And it's something that I prefer not to do when dealing with vendors. You have a management company, trust your management company to deal with your vendors and your service providers, and let them work on that end, and then come back to the board and share the information, because sometimes you get members that will not operate in a good manner. And so that really will form some negative relationship with vendors. And you don't want to be in a position to where vendors are talking to each other, business partners are talking to each other, and they're saying, oh, you don't want to do business with that organization. They talk to you in a negative way, And so you just have to be very cautious. But I was really surprised at the way the board member went towards the service provider. And I just shared with the board member, and I took control of the call, and just, hey, we've had a good positive relationship in the past, and I'm sure we're going to be able to continue to maintain that type of relationship. How about the service provider goes and checks on this, and how about you install some temporary lights so I provided some solutions and tried to kind of bring that down, and then have some further conversation once the service provider got off the phone. But it's just so important that you're building positive relationships and being professional in every manner. Although it is a volunteer position for the homeowners, we still want to maintain a positive spirit in dealing with things. And so we'll go into the next slide, which is leadership. And just a couple things here. Are you building the pipeline for tomorrow's leaders? Are you electing the right members to lead your community? Are you hosting leadership planning sessions? I think this is very, very good. If you're kind of all over the place, your community is just all over the place with new endeavors and things of that sort, host a leadership planning session. Let's look 3 years out. What are the priorities for our association? Put that on paper and work through those things, and then have follow-up leadership planning sessions to follow up a year from now on what you accomplished and keep things moving forward. But that all speaks to that. And so are you leading and operating in a transparent and inclusive manner? I think we talked about that earlier. Are you having ex parte meetings? So are you having meetings before the meeting that haven't been announced and that are basically, not in good spirit? And so make sure that you join CAI, you take those classes, you depend on your management company, have your management company also provide you some training and things of that sort and best practices, and just, be the best leaders that you can be. And then the next slide is going to be the meetings. I like this, the photo here. So is this what your meeting looks like? Are your meetings? So this is clearly not a well-run, meeting. They obviously did not have an agenda for this meeting. Is the management and the board, are they coming well prepared to the meeting? Are the meetings lasting more than an hour to an hour and a half? If they are, something's not quite right, possibly. Maybe you need to have more frequent meetings. And so if you were meeting quarterly. Maybe you need to move to monthly for a little while until you kind of work through the items on the agenda and then go back and reassess, how often you need to meet. Do you allow time for resident participation? That's very important. And is your resident participation the cause of your meetings running long? So if that's the case, maybe move your resident participation to the beginning of the meeting, set a time frame, place it on the agenda. Each homeowner will have 2 minutes to speak. And then I also find out if the resident participation, I find that if that section is taking a long period of time, a board meeting is not the place really to come to talk about items that you could have reached out to the management company to address in advance. And so, the board meeting, so just, you want to keep that in mind, but that's certainly some best practices. And are the meetings being held in the spirit of inclusiveness? And are the meetings often too long or not often? Are the meetings not often enough or too often? So just keep all of those things in consideration. And do the members show respect towards one another? It's okay to disagree. Not everyone's going to be on the same table there. All right, Don, how am I doing on time here?
Yeah, great. Lots of great information. We're running out of time. So how about a few key points on your next couple slides, and then we'll come to Brian and the landscaping portion.
All right, perfect. I think communications, I think the main key that I want to touch on this slide is just going to be, are your communications effective? Are they well written? Are they free of errors? I think that if they're not, then you lose your audience. So it's important that your communications are well written and that they tell the story, and they tell it in a short period of time, and not a 5-page letter to talk about a pavement parking type repair that's going to be happening in the near future. The next slide here. I think this kind of summarizes kind of some of the things that we've gone through so far in our presentation. Most importantly is to have a plan. Is your budget on point? Is it covering what needs to be covered? Invest in your common areas. I cannot speak to enough of this. Invest in common areas. So if you have to, when you're going over your budget, it's just something that you have to accommodate. And you have to have those relationships, invest in relationships, your communications, choose the right leaders, conduct business professionally, and adhere to industry's best practices. And then also partner with the best service providers that are out there. And so when you're going to find service providers, do your due diligence and find the best ones out there, maintain that relationship, build off of it, and then that will continue to bring other awesome service providers because they're going to share that with the other service providers. And so I think, Don, that's going to wrap up this portion for me.
Great job, Derek. That was wonderful. And I just want to add a little bit. And Derek represented the management industry very well. And I want to put a plug in for your community needs to have a great partnership with your management company and your management leaders who are representing your community, because they are the face to the rest of the business partners. I know this from being on both sides, and I know Brian can speak to this. Landscapers work very closely with managers, and your manager can give your community a bad reputation. So pay attention and develop that positive relationship. What Derek presented is what you want to see. So thank you, Derek. And this brings us to the next part of the presentation. Brian, I really look forward to hearing what you have to say about first impressions, especially from a landscaping perspective. So take it away.
Thank you, Don, and thanks, Derek, and everybody, and the Chesapeake chapter for having me. Really looking forward to this. Hopefully I can give you a couple points that everybody can take back and use at some point. But first impressions, that's a big one. You only get one chance to make a first impression. I think when you go into a community, what makes a first impression from the landscaping, and I believe your community signs, entrances, monuments. I think those are first areas to look at, and quite possibly work on, look to enhance. Some of the things you may want to really look at, are your signs, are they up? Do they need to be updated? Do they need to be painted? Maybe they need to be pressure washed. Do they need to have some be opened up? Monuments and signs, a lot of times you have trees around them. Tree limbs can be hanging down, blocking signs. Opening them up just makes it a lot more inviting. But those are some first amenities. You might need to do some tree removal around your monuments because they're just being blocked. Things like that. Just really work on expose, open up the areas. Another good thing for first impressions is lighting. Lighting on monuments, trees, on medians and islands. The lighting at night just makes a community very inviting, especially around the signs and the trees. You can always look at center islands, clubhouse lighting, community center lightings. It looks really spectacular. It's becoming very popular. So those are some things to look at. The second impressions, amenities, items. I would consider this to be areas like your community center, clubhouse, pool, tennis court, basketball courts if you have them. But don't forget, your main roads, your thoroughfares, boulevards. Those are always very important areas. Tot lots, parks, and open spaces. All these areas, would be considered to be, second impression type areas. And with those areas, a lot of times basketball courts, tennis courts, they have fences. Things to consider are your trees elevated off of those fences? Do you have limbs hanging on? Do they need to be, maybe there needs to be some selective tree removal, especially around clubhouses and buildings. You certainly don't want limbs touching the buildings. That brings animals on and roofing issues. So those are a lot of things to look at when you're looking at some of the buildings and fences of these second amenity type areas. So some of the your presentation is part of your reputation.
So Brian,
yes, sir.
Going back to the first impression in an entrance, like what do you see communities do? Let's say we're in summer season now with flowers. That's a great
point, Don. And what's really becoming a nice trend is a lot of communities are planting more flowers, but they're also incorporating accent plants. Some tropical plants. There's a lot of different tropicals out there that can work really well with flowers that give you a super nice look and really do set you apart from other communities that just only plant flowers. Adding the tropicals can really set it off very nicely. And keeping in mind your clubhouse is a great area to put in the tropicals with the flowers. It's a really hot thing that's going on lately. They're not relatively too expensive, but unfortunately, you do have to keep in mind that they are seasonal. And unfortunately, the tropicals up here, they only make it till probably November. Once we start getting into those first frost areas, we start losing them. But typically in those areas, Don, by that time, we're going into a different seasonal rotation of flowers. But tropicals have become a big part of the area. You can see them really being used in a nice, effective manner.
Brian?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to share, Brian. So I work with Brian on a couple of communities that I manage. And I know one suggestion that he made for a community, because they do a lot of the tropical plants and things of that sort during the different seasons. And one thing that was recommended is that instead of taking those items out at the end of the season and discarding them, if they're items that can be replanted in other areas, we've done that. But in addition, for items that are more tropical that will not last through the winter season, we've made those available for the homeowners to come and to collect those items on a first come, first served basis. So once again, you're creating that warm and fuzzy and that reputation, that community reputation. You know, wow, what a great idea. And they're not being wasteful of different materials. And, you know, you're able to share that with the community members. So that was just something that Brian had shared with us, and we introduced it, and it's been a hit.
Yeah, that's a good point. The tropicals, you have to have a green thumb to overwinter those, but in the winter plantings where we use accent plants, yeah, those plants are really, you can take them and put them in areas, you know, around, and just make new planting areas around trails, or just, you know, in areas that are kind of overlooked, and you can just start using them as enhancement items to really start building the good look of the community. But
so what would you say to Yvonne, who her community has high fees, owners are unhappy?
I'm sorry, Don, I lost you there.
Maybe we can go ahead, Brian, and see if Don is able to.
Okay, I'll just keep moving along. So another part of first impressions is your presentation is part of your reputation. You know, in this, you should always be looking to keep enhancing your landscape. You know, make sure your landscape is full and healthy. You know, are your landscape designs and enhancements needed, or do you need to update with pruning and trimming, anything, you know, some things of that nature. Trees and shrubs, you know, try to open things up. You know, I think a good area that this can work is in a lot of trail areas. You know, woods lines just naturally grow, and eventually they need to be pushed back in. It's just the same with the trees, all your shrubs. You know, sometimes you need to do renovational cutbacks, just not trimming, but actually reducing the size of the plants to keep that quote unquote fresh look going. Because sometimes if you just let these shrubs go, they can get, you know, 10, 12 feet high and just become uninviting. You know, I think some things that the larger communities should look at in terms of their reputation, a good signature look. You know, if you're a large community and you have different sections and multiple monuments, making sure you have that, you know, you want to work on and having a uniform look. You know, sometimes, you know, one monument may look different from another one. You know, get a landscape design together, create a uniform pattern, and get that installed and maintain that. And then in some of the, if you're in a smaller community, maybe you just have an entrance and a rear entrance. You know, but if that's the case, you know, make sure they match. You know, you want, when you have that and you have visitors in your community, you know, at that point they know you're in a certain community, because they drive by and like everything looks uniform. You know where you're at, and so that's a big part of your presentation. I think we'll with that move to the next slide.
Brian, before you go to the poll, I just have a comment. I think that you're spot on about the uniformity, and I think that speaks to brand, and it speaks to the reputation basically, and it also speaks to having a plan in place, so when your volunteers change over, there's a plan that they have to work off of. And so I think that it's so important to have those things in place and to work with. I know one thing you did mention, Brian, is I know that you attend the grounds committee meetings for some of your communities. And so I think having that partnership also just extends that reputation, and it just makes servicing things move consistently. And so say, for instance, you also have a change in your management company. If that plan is there, it just helps to keep things kind of consistently. So the branding, I think you mentioned that, and the uniformity, that's so important. And I think that it goes into all of your various aspects, and not just landscaping, but it talks to every aspect of moving an association forward.
Yes, yeah. I think we do have we do have a poll now. But yeah, those are great points, Derek, and having that the landscape committee and the landscape plan, whether it's a 3 to 5 year plan or whatever that might be. It's because there is turnover on especially in committees and boards. Sometimes people just all of a sudden don't have time for it. And, so there's always people coming in and out of that. So if there is, like you said before in your talk, something on paper, it's just a good roadmap to keep moving forward. Let me see here. Did any of those polls come up?
Yeah.
There, oh, there it is. Not bad.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I thought about it. I live in a condo, and the front flowers didn't get changed out till about a week ago.
Ooh.
I was about ready to contact someone.
Yeah.
At that point, pansies didn't look good anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, Don. Yeah, so but yeah, the things like we talked about in in a previous topic with the tropicals, that's really good point. Sometimes the timing of the tropicals can be delayed because we're on the we're held hostage to our suppliers from Florida. It's something that's where we get them all from, and sometimes you just can't. You never know what's going to happen down there.
Well, Brian, it wasn't your fault. I don't think you're the landscaper where I live.
So if I could just make a quick comment on that. So this goes back to, I don't know if I've mentioned annual calendar earlier. So this goes back to having that annual calendar. And so that annual calendar should be shared with your board members. The management should maintain it. And you can also share with your homeowners so they kind of have an idea of when things happen throughout the year. Because Don, in your situation, that very well could have been that the decision wasn't made on which flowers they wanted to go with until a later period of time. And so when they got the order to the landscape service provider and the order was placed, they were a little late on the mark. And so that could be the case as well, as that there's no annual calendar in place that clearly shows that this item needs to be on the agenda for the March meeting to get this to the service provider by the end of March. So that way you can have your beautiful flowers planted by Mother's Day or shortly after, or things of that sort. So this could also speak to that annual calendar and community reputation as well, because someone drove past your condominium association and saw the front there and they were like, maybe, oh, well, wow, what happened? What happened there, or things of that sort. So excellent point there, Don.
Derek, just to touch on that too, some of the communities I'm involved in, they have landscape committees, and you have these annual monthly meetings, and in those meetings you're constantly talking about months in advance of what's coming up, and so you're putting down schedules. The committees know that, hey, we're going to start planning on the first of May, or no, we're going to let's set up for mid-May, or let's wait till June, whatever the case may be. But having those landscape committees and the landscape contractor involved with those committees can really help out with that in terms of setting dates, and that way everybody knows kind of what's going on.
So Cindy brought up a good point that maybe the delay that we had was related to manpower. Have you been impacted with having difficulty finding people to
I'll say landscaping right now is really no different than any other service industry or construction contractor. Everybody's hoping that things will possibly move better as new administration's in, but it is tough out there. People are kind of all battling for the same group of labor, and there's only so many. COVID was a really tough hit. I think a lot of people thought, me included, thought, oh wow, people will come out looking for work, but if you can stay at home and collect a check, so it didn't really work for us in that favor. But I think things are moving in a better direction. We're not quite there yet, but just hopeful, but labor is tough. I mean, if you talk to any painter or carpentry, anything in those areas, and you'll hear the same thing. So moving into partnering with a professional, this is a good topic. I mean, with landscaping, I mean, this can almost go with almost any field. There's a lot of different contractors out there. My belief is, you want to look for references. Look at other communities that the contractor does. Go through them, drive through them, see what they look like. Is that does their work represent what you're looking for? Does the potential contractor, they have a website that you can access and look and see what type of things they have on their website. Larger companies have great websites. You can see everything they do. So a lot of times they'll list references. Some things. What services do they offer? Are they a full service contractor, or do they subcontract? With landscaping, there can be a lot of different items. It's just not cutting grass. Do they have a tree division? Do they have an irrigation division? Do they have a lighting division? Do they have horticulturals on staff? Do they have designers on staff? Maybe you're a smaller community, you don't need all those type of staff, but those are some of the things that you should look at. And I think subcontractor versus in-house is a big item that communities should look into. I think every contractor does some type of subcontracting, but you want it to probably be as limited as possible. Then building long-term relationships. I'm a big believer in this. I love, when I come into a community, that's the first thing that's on my mind. I don't want to be there just for a year or for 2 years. I want to build a long-term relationship. From a contractor standpoint, you can commit people, and you're going to be there. You can buy your products, have things ready online. You can plan much better. Long-term relationships, just like in like girlfriend, boyfriend, marriages, you work for those communities. You help them out in emergency situations. You get storm damage that comes in. Who are you going to go to first? You're going to go to a property that you have a long-term relationship with, or you're going to go to a property that you don't know if you're going to be there next year. So those are just some things that we look towards. And of course, for me personally, when I work in a community, I like to take ownership in it. And I think the employees, believe it or not, the laborers that work on there, they take ownership as well. So it's a really good practice, I believe, in trying to get people or get contractors and communities to build that long-term relationship. And it's just, once you have that type of relationship, I know where trouble spots are. I can bring those attentions to the committees, and you can work towards creating a better landscape in those. Evaluating and addressing current deficiencies. Having a going back to what I said earlier, having a professional company that has the right staffing with horticultures and designers, those type of individuals within a company, can help evaluate your landscape and see the deficiencies. If you're just a mow and type go company, you don't have necessarily those type of people on your staff. They're just trying to cut the grass, do the edging, clear the clippings off, and go on to the next one. Having these type a real professional company with designers and horticultures on staff, they spend time in the community. They will look at that monument area and say, those trees behind the monument, those really aren't the right ones to be back there. They may have been planted years ago, and they're just not the right tree for this environment. Bringing those kind of issues up, or not issues, but just bringing those details and attentions to the landscape committee or boards, and that can work into the planning, the 3 to 5. Okay, well, maybe we need to look at that. We can't do it this year, but maybe we can do it next year, or maybe even the year after that. But having those type of people on staff, those are the things they look at, over top of the what I call heavy lifting items like mowing and edging and those lawn care and those things. So and that would move into developing a plan, researching goals. This is we talked about it. Having a 3 to 5 year plan is a great start if you don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, get something like Derek had mentioned before, down on paper. Have some type of roadmap so you know what you're doing, and that way it's the residents know. I mean, the community calls up, hey, what's going on with this? Nobody really knows. But if you have a 3 to 5 year plan, at least you have a roadmap. You can look at what's the priorities. Is it the monuments? Is it the landscaping around the monuments? Is the landscaping around the clubhouse? Is it the trees? There's oodles of different topics that could be on that 3 to 5 year plan, but you have to get something together, and that way people can move to working towards it. The last thing on this slide, create a wow factor. We mentioned it earlier, looking for that signature look, and I believe that signature look is, starting at the monuments and carrying it all the way through to every other monument and every clubhouse or every community building on there. If you're doing a flower scheme, use the same flower scheme at each one of those areas. Use the tropicals in the same manner, plant them in the same type of area. That way it's really easy to tell that you're into that community. You start doing things like that, incorporating tropicals, using the flowers, using them at all the monuments. It's going to start setting your community up to from comparing to the community next door. So it's really good to work on that wow factor.
That's a really great point, Brian. We have about 10 minutes left on your section, and want to make sure we can get to things and also incorporate a few points. So if you can hit on a few highlights, and then I can ask a few questions that people are posing.
Absolutely, thank you, Don. Just a couple brief facts. Nothing. We can move right along this one. There's a couple facts out there. A well-maintained yard in a home. Planting a tree, adding values can be as simple as planting a tree. Research shows that a maintained tree in a front yard can enhance your sale price by up to $7,000. I thought that was a pretty good nugget. That's not a whole lot of effort to get a whole lot of money. Keeping your tree, a couple trees in front of your house, that's a great investment. Also, other than the investment, I think, trees do give you that welcome home feeling that I think everybody likes to see. And then also, in keeping your yard maintained in a well-fashioned manner can increase your home's value by some reports up to 5 to 11%. So those are some good numbers. Anything that can make home values go up, I think everybody's a big fan of. That's always, I'm sure your neighbor would know like that if you were trying to put your home up for sale. So just a good
related to that, Brian, I think it's one of our participants posted a question, and Derek, I'm going to bring you into this as well. So this community has limited common areas in front of individual homes, and some homeowners are planting whatever they want in these sections. So you get this mishmash, based on this participant. You may have a well-groomed common area, and then you have some person's version of beautiful in their limited common area. How do you handle that in a community? Derek, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I would say you have to follow your governing documents. So you need to go back and see what the homeowner is allowed to do what the responsibility of the association is. And then you can work with your homeowners. If the homeowners are allowed to plant in that portion that's on their lot, then maybe provide some tips and some seminars that will provide them with information maybe on the types of items that will do best in the environment that they're planted in, some of the colors that will do best and things of that sort, and try to work to have some cohesiveness. And then of course, if somebody kind of steps outside of those areas, then that's what you have your enforcement on your covenants for. So if someone is allowing the weeds to grow up 4 feet tall and things of that sort, those inspections are most important and can help to assist with those type of things. And once again, I think if the association is maintaining the portion that they're responsible for, that's gonna lead the owners to also want to maintain theirs to look just as nice as well.
Yeah.
So Brian, would you come in, and have you ever come in and done presentations basically for the community as a whole, and even the homeowners who have in their individual areas can benefit?
Yeah, we have. We've held landscape seminars with communities, and actually they've been really well attended. And they have a lot of my experience is a lot of questions on hey, I have this in my yard, what can I do? And or this is going on, and and a lot sometimes when these communities are new rather the homes are new, you don't know what the what the history of the plants are that go in. I mean, it can be I can go on for a long time, but I mean the plants, they could come in, they could be sitting outside in the middle of summer, they plant them in, and so new homeowners have a lot of like, why am I? And I think landscape seminars with communities are a big hit. Gives them a lot of can give them a lot of knowledge, and a lot of it's not secret. It's just something you just need to convey, and they go, oh yeah, that's right, that's all I need to do is water my tree when I plant it, and it's going to live. Things like that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So I interrupted you. You have a few more slides. If we could.
Yeah.
If I could just interrupt really quickly, Brian. I also another option that Brian has offered for communities is the plant sale. So what a great way to kind of lead what you want planted in your community is offer a plant sale, and your professional landscape company will know maybe what plants will thrive best and flowers will thrive best in your community. So that's another option as well.
Yeah. So with planning and budgeting, I've actually hit on this a little bit already in some of my other talks, but obviously planning and budgeting it is very important. And if you're a community and you don't have any type of planning and budgeting, then you're kind of in the back door. You need to get out and get if you don't have a landscape committee, you should try to form one. I know it can be tough because they are volunteer positions, but it'd be nice to try to have one. Or if not, then somehow try to just have your landscape contractor work more closely with management and just having some type of plan with them that they can work off of. But having that 3 to 5 year enhancement plan, it just will help you prioritize your goals moving forward on what you want to do. And again, I mentioned before, it helps residents know, and especially in communities that are being built out, they see the front of the section that may be 15, 20 years old, and how nice it looks and mature, and their section just got built, and how come we don't look like this? And having that plan and say, hey, these are the areas we're working on, and we're moving towards your area. And it's good to have the committee meetings, because those new residents can come to those meetings and voice their and then we could maybe their area wasn't looked at yet, and just say it's an aha moment. Great, we'll put that down on paper, and that way at least everybody knows we're heading that direction. And so that having that plan's always great. But I think, like, again, things that I've always said is consider the signature look in the community. That's when it comes to budgeting for replacement and upgrades, things of those nature. you want to be looking at your monuments. Do they need to be upgraded? Are the plants, are they more mature? Do they need renovational pruning, which is a thing where you come in and you can actually reduce the size of the plants. You can take a 6-8 foot plant in some cases and bring it down to 24 inches. And, you do that in the wintertime. And by May, it looks like it's just a brand new shrub that you planted. So there's a lot of things that your landscaping contractor can do to kind of help bring some of the mature landscapes up to date without spending a lot of money, or, we're doing a whole new planting. But there are a lot of things out there, but you should always be working on your turf enhancement on your boulevards, around your clubhouses, what I would consider, high visual areas. Keep weeds out. And when I say keep weeds out, I'm not just talking about turf and mulch beds. To me, the curb line and the sidewalks, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So, at stop signs where you have handicap ramps and things of those natures, keeping the weeds out of the cracks and the curbs and the concrete, those are really big items to be looking at, on upgrades and things of that nature. And another big,
can we do like a final wrap up of some of your tips on maintaining common areas? And then this is me just not knowing everything, which I readily admit, but you mentioned monuments numerous times.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say monuments?
Well, good point, Don. A monument is a lot of communities will have a sign, and will have just in a simple case, you have a brick pillar on the left, a brick pillar on the right, and you have a whatever it may be, wood, plaster, brick, and it'll have the community name. Most communities have something like that, and some communities have maybe one. Others have several. It just depends on the size of the community. So that's kind of like the monument area. But just one other tip about planning and budgeting, I like to bring up, planning to, I think, in looking for those signature looks, putting pots in around clubhouses and pool areas. Those are just really, really nice touches for enhancing the community. So there's just something to be looked at too. But some of the other things, like setting the standards that we want to be looking at, is a big thing in communities is trash and litter. I think everybody has that problem. Doing things like community days, trying to get the community involved to come out and do trash. And you can always have your contractor help in picking up the bulk trash that's collected. And in some instances, the county might get involved and help with providing, it could be bags, it could be gloves, it could be trash pickers. But if you check with your county, I think they in some instances do offer incentives to help communities in these type of events. But we're looking to inspire the homeowners, obviously, and doing that, doing sponsored events, whether it's a flower sale, which we've done before, and landscape seminars. Those are always great first steps. Things that sometimes in communities you could do is recognition and awards for residents and landscaping who has a nice landscaping on the block. Having the community days where everybody's getting together is a big help. And I had this one on one of my communities. They call it doggy days. I always liked it. It was the day the pool closed at the end of the year at like whatever the time was. They'd let the residents bring their dogs up and jump in the pool and go crazy. And I always thought that was kind of cool. But those are all things that are going to bring your residents together. And obviously that's, you're gonna get pride in your community once you do things like that. So I really, that's pretty much all I have, and I appreciate everybody's time on the landscaping. Sorry to carry it so long.
No, it's fantastic information. I really appreciate it, Brian.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. Let's make it as quick as we can, about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Which puts us about 11:01, and we're going to come back with some information on communication. So see you in a bit.
Okay.
Well, is everyone okay if we get started?
I'm good.
Excellent. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm looking forward to what you have to present, what you and John have for us. So take it away.
Okay, great. Build it and they will come. You probably all heard that from an old Kevin Costner movie called Field of Dreams. But I'm here to tell you it's not true. You can build the best community in the world, but if you don't tell your story, if you don't get that out to people and communicate that to people, they're not going to show up. Your property values won't be what you want them to be. And that obviously directs right to your reputation. We're here to tell you the story of telling your story and the best ways to do that. Some of the ways that other communities have proven work for them. But keep in mind that nobody believes the perfect story. Everybody wants to present themselves in the most positive manner, and that's very important. But communication is two ways. It's not advertising. It is two ways. You have to be able to fix problems. You have to be able to communicate that you fix problems and communicate how you're going to fix problems and listen to people when they say they have a problem. So we're going to cover all of that. But I think first we have a poll. Obviously, this is asking different ways you communicate. All of these are used by different communities that we deal with on a regular basis, and they all have their pluses and minuses.
This one has a lot of answers for folks to read through, so we'll give it here just another minute or so people can answer both questions.
Okay.
Scroll down toward the bottom so you can get to submit.
You have another 30 seconds or so here. Yeah, let's see what we.
Joe, does this match what you typically find?
Actually, it does match it fairly well. Although a lot of the digital communication we're finding to be more and more useful today. A lot of people are, and when I say digital communication, we're not talking only about websites, but we're talking about social media. We're talking about e-blasts and that sort of thing. So we're at the top with a few of those, and some of them, some communities aren't using some of the other things. I see signboards are high up there. I don't deal with a lot of communities. I do see some communities that have signboards, but they're not as prevalent as they once were.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on to the next slide.
Did we have another poll, Steve? Or I think, did we combine them? Yeah, there we go.
Nope, sorry, I was a little slow on the transition.
Okay. So first, we're going to talk about the effective communication strategies. You see all of those. These are the ones that we find most useful and that most of the communities we deal with are using. You can look at the list. I'm sure none of those are going to surprise you. The first thing you need to think about is branding. We talked about what a monument can do when you're talking about landscaping and first impressions, but a logo is the same. Make sure you have a professional logo, something that not only looks good but presents your organization in a good light. The signage are the monuments, but also signs above your clubhouse, above your tennis courts, everywhere that you are going to be represented. It needs to look clean. It needs to look professional, right down to your letterhead. If you're sending out letters through the mail, which many communities are still doing, you want that to look professional. Don't just, slap something you saw on the internet on your paper and expect it to look professional. So why don't we go on to the next slide? And we're going to talk about websites first. I think in that survey, everybody, a major portion, not everyone, but a major portion talked about using websites. And we find this to be true in most cases. How can your website be used to communicate with the community? Well, the two most important things you want to do with a website is not only promote your community, but you need to put up information that informs your community. We all understand that we want to have pretty pictures. We want to let everybody know where we are, how many homes we have, what kind of homes we have, and that sort of thing. But you want to inform them about all the other things. You want to make sure that everybody knows there's a dog park, there's a pool, 2 pools, that you have walking trails, that you have tot lots, all of those things help inform not only the general public who may be looking to buy a home, but also lets everybody in your community know not only do you have those, but that you're keeping them up. And the next slide, please. Branding. We talked about it for just a moment, but it's something you want to keep in mind. Everything you put out there, everything that is recorded, everything that goes digitally by hand, it has to look professional. It has to let people know it came from you. Make sure that your logo is professionally done for you. Make sure that the images on your website are new, not, it's very simple to let your website look dated. You don't want that to happen. You want it updated. You want people to look at it and say, okay, this is a fresh community. This is not something that's that has been ignored and let fall into disrepair. And sometimes if your website looks dated, people think that you only have decent pictures from long ago. You don't have any new decent pictures to put up. And it becomes one of those first impressions we talked about earlier. When you're telling your story, you want to help build a strong reputation. And your reputation helps with your home ownership or your home values. And that's really important to everyone, to management, to the board, and to every single resident in the community, is home values. So you want to make sure that your website is managed by a pro, not somebody who says, oh, well, I've got a couple hours a week. I'll go in there and I'll change pictures around. I'll do that sort of thing. There's a lot more to it. You want to make sure the pictures are presented in the right way, in a professional way. You want to make sure the logos aren't outshined. You want to make sure that you can see everything you need to get to, that it's easy to navigate. The best way to use your website is to promote the community. As we just said, you want to be able to let not only the current residents, but future residents, renters, and especially real estate agents. We said it before, that you want real estate agents to direct people to your community, and they're the best ones to do it. But secondly, you're telling your story all the time. You want that impression to be good. You don't want to present a poor impression. So it's very important that
I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I interrupted you.
I was going to say it's very important that you promote and inform on your website, as well as you can use your website for targeted communications with certain groups. You can set up a page on your website that the only people that have access are maybe homeowners. Maybe the renters don't need to know it. Maybe people looking to look into your communication or into your website don't need to know what certain documents or don't need to have access to certain documents. Only homeowners need that. And maybe you only want to communicate this to the communications committee, the activities committee, or maybe even the board. So you can set up things on your website to communicate privately with those groups.
To your point about reputation and splitting up the website, like some things are private, some are public. Often in my work, I'll Google a community because I want to find out about it. And it's amazing how many communities have basically zero information that's public. They have you have to log in to see anything. I'm like, I can't even find out anything about this community. So how are you selling your reputation to the people out there who are interested? And I think you brought up a really good point, Joe. Like, this is something you can use to the community's advantage. You mentioned realtors and prospective owners. I think it's important to remember that.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, when somebody hears about you, and I don't care if you're a dog walker, a landscaper, a community, a barbecue restaurant, when they hear about you, the first thing they're going to do is go to the internet and try to find out as much as they can. And the first thing they're going to do on the internet is go to your website. They want to see what you have to say. And they expect that it's all going to look pretty, it's all going to be nice. But if it doesn't look professional, if it doesn't tell them the story, the complete story, they assume that whatever you haven't told them doesn't exist. And just think about if you go to a restaurant, maybe you go to a restaurant that is an Italian restaurant, but all you show on your website is pizza. They're going to assume that they can't get that spaghetti dinner. They can't get that chicken Parmesan dinner. They can't get all those other things that maybe you do as well. But because your website was limited, you maybe in a way just to save money, or you didn't have a professional handling it for you, it wasn't put out in a way that will draw them to you. Okay, the next slide, please. Intuitive design. We've all had the experience of going to a website, wanting to get a particular bit of information. Maybe you're going to a store, you want to know the hours or know exactly how their address or how to get there, or do they handle this product or do they handle that product? And you're having to go all over the website. You're having to scan the entire website to find that. And it becomes difficult. If you look at the top of this website, like most websites, there's a list of things that you can get to immediately. What's it going to be like if you live here? What's our calendar going to be like? What are our amenities? How do you contact us? Things like that. If those are difficult to find on your website, people are going to get off your website before they reach what they need to know. If your website is difficult to navigate, if it's not intuitive, they're not going to stay on long enough to hear your story. And that's what we're here to talk about, is to get your story out.
Joe, I'd like to add something to this if I could.
Sure.
You have the websites that you see on your computer, but this also goes for your mobile websites as well. So many people now turn to their phone to look at a website, and if the navigation is poor there, they're going to leave there as well. So it's got to work both ways. It's got to be what they call responsive, which means it works on a computer, a notebook, it works on a phone. And if they work in both of those places, it also helps with your SEO. So just want to throw that in there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, interactive. One great way to keep people on your website is to have as much interactivity as possible. In this example, we show a way that you can push a button to volunteer in your community. And most communities are looking for volunteers to help in their committees, to help in cleanup days, to help arrange, Easter egg hunts, Christmas parties, pool parties, that sort of thing. So that's a great way to upfront on your website make it easy for people to volunteer. Another way is surveys like we did before. If you want to find out what the problems are in the community, you can put out a survey. Are we having problems with the landscape? Are we having problems with, pet waste? Are we having problems with this, that, or the other thing? It's a great way to get word from your residents directly to you. It's if they can click on a button and go exactly to the space they need to go to pay their fees, it not only keeps them on the website, it keeps them coming back to the website, and it also makes it easy for them. It makes it a tool for them, as opposed to just, well, I've seen the website, I don't need to ever go back. They don't ever see the updating. So that's always important.
Absolutely.
Next slide. Now, this is about how you optimize your website and how it's going to be seen. How do people find it? And John is actually our expert on SEO, search engine optimization, or the website optimization. So I'm going to let him handle this.
Okay, well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Before I get into the SEO photography and the controlled content, text content, I do want to put another point out there to all the HOAs, the homeowners. It's really important that you buy your own domain name for your website. So your URL you should own. Don't leave that in charge for one of the residents. It's really something that should be governed by the HOA. They should take full control of that, because that has to be updated, it has to be renewed. And if that does not occur, you can lose your website because it just disappeared. All of a sudden it's not there on the internet anymore because you didn't renew your name. So your website name you should own. Another part of this is always make sure that you buy a maintenance program with your website. If you're working with an outside company or you're doing something, maintenance is a key ingredient to keeping that website running properly. There's so many websites out there that you get to and they just don't work. I mean, you hit a button, nothing happens, or you get four errors, things like that. So it's really important that you keep some kind of a maintenance contract on your website. And then finally, probably the most important thing is own your website. A lot of companies will say, "Oh, we'll give you a website, and we'll be part of our management fees. We do give you the website." Well, that's great, but if something should happen to that management company and they leave, you now lose that website, and all the data that you've collected all the years that you've had that website with them is gone. So it's really important that you own a website, that you own your URL. And that way you take full control of that website and it's in your hands. So before I get into this, I just want to make sure that was something I stated. Going on to Google, obviously today search is a main component of the web. And it requires some key fundamental things. The proper keywords that need to be on your website, keywords are things that people search on, and that they're trigger points to a website. They get you to a website. And that's what Google uses to help pull people to your site. So keywords are important. The other things are title tags and description tags. These are back-end items that you put into your website. Again, Google uses these to help position your website on their search engine. So when somebody's doing a search, it looks for these keywords, it looks for these title and description tags, and then that's how it finds you. And that's how people find you. And that's the whole goal behind the community website your website is to have people be able to search and find you easily, and not do a search and find that you're not there. So there are easy things to do. And the final thing when it comes to SEO is your Google My Business listing. They're free. You can literally make a Google My Business listing, do it for free, put all your right content in there, and that'll put you on the map. It'll put your website on Google. It'll make it a lot easier for people to find. So and that's with any business, regardless whether it be an HOA or whether it be a pizza joint. It really doesn't matter. And as long as you've got a good Google My Business listing, it's accurate to your website, people will find you properly. And that's very important. I'm sure you've all, photography is actually, is a key component of a website. And I'm sure you've heard the old saying, Andre Agassi, image is everything. Well, this really goes, this is a great, the photos are a great way to help sell your community. With strong photos will help sell, poor photos will do the opposite. So if you're going to put it on your website, make sure it shines. And there's people take photographs all the time. You've got people in the community, you got homeowners, developers. They're all there taking photographs and making, use those for. You can actually ask them for photographs to put on your website, get their permission to put the nice photos up there. So photos sell. And then finally, controlled text content. You control what you say. So if you have a message that you want your community to put out there, if you have a message that draws people to your community, and it's important to keep the same message, to make it a strong message, and whatever you put up there, that's what people are going to see, that's what they're going to remember. So keep it, words are powerful, keep us strong headlines, make sure there's strong content, those trigger terms that are up there and the keywords, and your website will resonate online. And that's really what I wanted to say about the website. These are all the important ingredients. With that, I'll pass it back to Joe.
Okay. As John said, pictures are very important on your website. We've all heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a video is worth about 18,000 words. It's hard to beat a video. I tell people all the time that if you put up 2 sentences, people are more likely to watch a 1-minute video than write those or read those 2 sentences. Everything is video now. And it also helps with your optimization. The 2 largest search engines in the world are Google and YouTube. And by mere coincidence, Google owns YouTube. So not only do you want to do what Google wants you to do, but one of the things Google wants you to do to be found is put a video on your website. And a video itself can be optimized. A video can actually, sometimes we have customers that are found by their video before they're found by their website when people are searching for it. It can do a number of things for you. It's a wonderful way to tell your story. It can promote your community. It can teach and inform your audience about your amenities, about the entire area, and much, much more. I think in our next shot, we have a 20-second clip out of one of the videos we did for a community. We're not hearing any of the audio on this, but this is a community that happens to be next to a lake.
Actually, this is a Saranac community in Virginia. That's Robert Trent Jones Golf Course right there.
So what a great way to promote a community. They're next to a wonderful golf course. They're next to a lake. Not everybody wants that, but the people that want that, you can't convey that as well in a single picture as you can in a video. Okay, so next we're going to go into social media. And social media can be a great way to communicate with your residents, with homeowners, and it's a quick way to communicate with them. People go into their social media every day. They have it on their phone. You can send out quick messages. You can send out reminders. In this case, we have an announcement of an architectural committee meeting that they might not have seen on their email blast. Also, you can talk about the pool. In this one, they're looking for more lifeguards for that particular pool, which is pretty important. You have a lack of lifeguards, you're going to have to lower the hours of your pool. So those types of things can get out quickly, and it gets to some people that aren't going to read their email blasts, that aren't going to get on the website to see those things. In today's market, there's some people that they have their phone with them all day. They're going to look at what's on their phone. They might look at their personal email once a day. If you're like my wife, you might do it every 3 or 4 days before you see something. So you don't always get timely information that way. You can't ignore the email, because some people, that's the way they're going to do it. They're on their email all day long, and that's the way they want to be communicated with. So you can't ignore either one. But if you're going to do social media, one of the most important things you need to keep in mind is to develop a social media policy. It defines things like who is allowed to post. What are the things you're allowed to post? When are your platforms monitored? Most communities wouldn't be monitoring it on the weekend or at night. It's very difficult to be able to afford an organization that is going to monitor your social media platforms 24 hours a day. So you need in your policy to let them know. Maybe you only monitor it, 9 to 5 days a week, which is what most communities do. So residents get to understand that if they ask a question or they're looking to get a message to management, and they do it on Saturday morning, somebody's probably not going to see it till Monday morning. Otherwise, without that policy, almost anybody can post whatever they want, whoever you give access to. And that can be very, very tricky. But keep in mind, when we talk about social media, when we talk about websites, when we talk about email or anything else, they all have their place, they all have their purpose, and they're all great ways to communicate. So you don't want to ignore any of it. It's all a wonderful way to communicate, and people are going to communicate the way they want to communicate. If they're happy with email, that's the way they're going to take their message. Some people don't mind logging on to a website every day. So you have social media on your phone, that's a great way to receive the information they want to give you. And as we said before, it's also quick communication. Something comes up at the last minute, it's a great way to get that information out. A reminder that you need to vote, whether it's for the president or for the board president. Maybe there's something, in this case, it's about the public library opening back up. I have a community that uses it to put out information about the pools. If you ever had a young family and you have a couple of kids and you pile them into the car with a cooler and floaties and everything else, you get to the pool and find out it's closed, even though you may have only driven a few blocks. That's a very frustrating thing to do. If you know that when they close the pool because of a biologic issue or an equipment issue or a weather issue, it's nice to know that somebody's going to pop that up into social media. You can check that real quick before you head out. So quick communications is very good. Promotional events.
We might need to hit the highlights on the next couple slides, Joe, if you can. Okay.
So then hitting the highlights, it's an interactive forum. Keep that in mind, but it's also a promotional forum. Social media can promote yard sales. It can promote any activity, event in the communication, whether in the community, whether it's an event or it might be the road's closed because of an accident or something like that. Let's go to the next one. E-blasting or emailing. It's a great way to get information out as well. As we said before, a lot of people will read their email on a constant basis, maybe even only once a day, but it does get information out, and you can get large messages out this way easily. Social media is not a good way to get large messages out. So if there's a lot of information to convey, this is a great way to do it. You can use it for promotional and informational information. As we've talked about in all of our categories here, we're looking for a way to promote and to inform, and all of that helps you to build your reputation, and it helps with your property values. Again, with email, you can do selective email lists. You can send things just to the board. You can send things just to homeowners. Sometimes homeowners need to to know something that maybe a renter doesn't. Sometimes the board needs to know something that the entire community doesn't. You could send it to just committees, as we talked about before. Maybe you only need to get some information out to the architectural committee or so forth. Next slide. Texting. Most people look at a text as something important. Very seldom does somebody ignore a text on their phone. They may not look at their email all the time. They may not look at it for a few hours after it's been sent, but usually they get a text, they're going to look at it now. So it's a great way to get out important information. I actually had a community where a tanker truck turned over at the gate of their community. So they very quickly needed to send everybody to the back gate of the community, keep everybody from that area. And it's a great way to get that kind of information out. But keep in mind that you can overdo it with texting or with email. You send too many emails, people are going to stop looking at them. You send too many texts, people are going to stop looking at them. They're going to get bored with what you say. So make sure that when you send a text, it is important information. It is something they need to know in a quick manner. When you send an email, it's not just fluff. It's value to them. And again, like everything else, you can use texting to promote, to inform, and as reminders. Particularly, people like to be reminded of board meetings and things like that. They may have gotten a notice that we have a board meeting 2 weeks from now, and they don't file it away in their brain. And if you can remind them that morning, they find that valuable information. Town halls. Town halls are wonderful because it's face-to-face. People get to ask questions. People get to answer questions. They usually are asking the right people, the people that are having the town hall or management or board. So they get to the proper people to ask the question. They're not getting misinformation. They're not talking to their neighbor and say, gee, why is this going on? And their neighbor giving them their opinion as though it's fact. This is a great way to get fact out. And also you can do these in person or you can do them virtually. Over the last year with COVID, it was very important that we were able to do any type of meeting virtually. You got to see people face to face. You got to get your message back and forth. You could talk to each other. It could be two-way communication. So not only is in person valuable and always probably even more valuable, but virtual sometimes can take the place when need be, when it has to be done that way. And the last, we're going to talk about surveys. We showed, in this case, it's a survey about pet waste disposal. In this community, they have a problem with pet waste, and they really need to find out, do they need more pet waste disposal areas? What rules do they need to put in place? What do they need to watch out for? What reminders do they need to send out? What are they looking for? So they did a survey, and it's a great way to get information. It's a great way to get right to somebody's opinion. Sometimes you need to get information and it needs to be succinct without all the narration around it. Well, let me tell you about the time this happened and this happened. They're just going to say, no, I need this. I don't need that. I want that. So it's a great way to find out, take the temperature of the people in the community and what they're looking for. And I think that wraps it up for us.
Awesome, Joe. I have one quick question for you because I think it's an important one. Someone was asking, I'm assuming that people need to give permission for their telephone number to be sent text messages. How have you seen communities gather those and get permission?
Basically what they do is they put on their websites, they send out e-blasts, they put it on social media and say, listen, this is a service we're going to offer. Contact us give us the number you want us to use. Once they've given you the number, that's permission. Because if they haven't given you the number, how did you get it? So, and keep a record of when they did it and how they did it. You know, they emailed it to us, they called us and gave us the number, but we got this from Mary Jones by telephone. We got this from Mary Smith by email on the 5th of, December or whatever it may be. Just make sure you keep track of that.
Awesome. Thank you. Derek, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Excellent information, Joe and John. Thanks a lot. So we're at the conclusion of our program, and it's promote your community. So I cannot say enough about promote. And so there's various ways that you can promote your community. And some of the options that are available is through CAI. And so annually, CAI recognizes communities for Best Communicator of the Year for various categories such as small, large scale, very large scale, medium-sized communities for Community of the Year. There's also Charitable Contribution of the Year. And so your communities are already doing these things. So take the opportunity to put an application in and apply and promote those wonderful things that are happening in your community. And so there's just a host of ways. I think we could go on all afternoon discussing the different ways that you could promote your community. But the best way is just to think of every interaction that you have. That's an interaction that's promoting your community. So I know this has been mentioned a couple of times. Control your reputation. Hopefully you've taken away some awesome tools from our session today that will assist you with doing so. And one thing that I left out earlier that I'd just like to circle back around to is be a community of one that is thanking their volunteers. And so I think that that is so important. Thank your volunteers, thank your service providers, recognize those individuals, use the opportunity of maybe an annual meeting to provide recognition for those that volunteer. And just, along the way, just say thank you. I think that goes a long ways. And that also speaks to reputation, and it just speaks to community and just being appreciative and things of that sort. And then take an opportunity to do some press releases and highlight those opportunities and things of that sort. And so with that, I will turn over to Don.
Well, if it's okay, I'll jump in because I would like to thank Don and all of our speakers today for putting together this content, being here this morning on a Saturday to help educate us on this incredibly important topic. So thank you all. Don, thanks for serving as maestro today from Oklahoma. We really appreciate it. And we will send the slides as follow-up, and we'll send the speaker contact information. So if you have questions that anybody would like to reach out to directly for the speakers, we'll make sure to include that as well. And I just want to end by saying, just keep in mind as well, we're talking about our associations today as far as reputation, but as individuals, we all have an impact on other organizations' reputation. So if you have a good experience, don't forget to take a couple minutes and let people know that you had a good experience with their business, because we all kind of feed into this and help and can spread some positivity by taking a little bit of time when our service provider or management company really do a good job for our community. So thank you all. I can't thank you enough for your time on a Saturday morning. And we will send an email early next week with the link to the video, the slides, and the contact information. So have a great rest of the weekend.